The Trump administration is causing irreparable harm at an alarming speed. This is why, regardless of your opinions of the Democratic Party, and I certainly am not the biggest fan, like, I don't care who does this right now, but you have to use every tool at your disposal, whether it be direct action, whether it be organizing, or whether it be hosting rallies, or whether it be even sometimes, getting the Democrats, expecting the Democrats to do something. We'll get started on the news first and foremost. AOC and Bernie have been drawing big crowds, bigger than Donald Trump and bigger than they ever had. And I want to talk about what that means for the future of the Democratic Party if they will pay attention to what's going on here.
Stars in the progressive left movement drew big crowds in Colorado today.
After hosting a rally at UNC in Greeley, Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez moved on to Civic Center Park in Denver. And that's where we find 9 News reporter Ria Jaw. Ria, the crowd was certainly energized tonight.
Yeah, people started showing up 3 hours in advance. A line just to get in wrapped around the entire block of Civic Center Park. And we spoke to people while they were showing up about why they came. And they said they were fed up with the current administration and that they needed to hear a message like this.
34,000 people showed up. Bernie's not running for anything. This is not an election campaign, okay? And yet, there are more people attending these events than even when Bernie was doing election rallies, when he was on a ticket, when he was running in the primaries. Like, it is crazy. If the Democrats don't recognize that the people demand more from them after all of this, I don't know what to tell you. If the Democrats don't recognize that, like, this is the way to show, this is probably the last for the people that think the Democratic Party is over. I totally get where you're coming from. Okay. For the people that are saying enough is enough, we've seen this song and dance many times over. I totally understand where you're coming from. I do. Okay. I don't have any confidence in the Democratic Party. I don't think that they have any real interest. I don't think that they have any real genuine interest in improving people's lives. Okay. And I don't think that they are going to take note of what Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing right now, specifically Bernie Sanders initially. But this is basically the lifeline. Can you explain why leftists on Twitter are mad at Bernie in your replies lately? A couple different reasons. One, there's the contingency of MAGA communists that are upset, that, are saying that the real pathway towards revolutionary politics comes from being on board with fascism. Those guys are deluded. The other contingency of Twitter leftists are mad because they're mad all the time. They're Twitter leftists. And some of the reasons why they're mad are totally valid. Like Bernie Sanders's, in my opinion, horrible approach to the genocide in Gaza. His lackluster approach where AOC outflanked him. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib obviously outflanked him a long time ago. There are a lot of valid reasons to criticize Bernie Sanders on the issue of foreign policy. Voting for Marco Rubio as the head of the State Department. That's a horrible. There's a horrible legacy that you'll be leaving behind. Some people are perhaps a little bit cynical in the way that they analyze the situation. Understandably, I'm not discounting that there are real valid concerns here where people think that Bernie is sheepdogging the new wave of progressives back into the Democratic Party in an effort to silence any kind of revolutionary potential. And I think that is another concern that people have. How the fuck are we cynical? Bernie is a cynical one. He doesn't give a single fuck about a single Palestinian. No, I'm saying that the anger that people feel towards Bernie Sanders with respect to his diminished response to the atrocities seen in Gaza is not a cynical criticism. I said that was the approach. Like, I understand why people are mad about that. I said that was valid. I also have genuine disagreements with Bernie Sanders on this. So the idea that all of the criticism is invalid is incorrect. I've never said that. Okay, I have not. That is something that I categorize as valid criticism. There are also cynical criticisms from people who just are MAGA communists or whatever. You know what I mean? That's it. Having said that, I think in the interest of charitability, the way I've approached this, the way I see the situation, and if people yell at me for, I guess, quote unquote, platforming Bernie or whatever, I don't really care about that. I mean, you guys are just yelling into the wind. Who gives a shit? You're just farting into the wind. No one will even smell it. If anything, they're platforming me. Okay. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, certainly, but, you can't really platform a senator, especially one that ran for president, or one of the most popular or infamous, depending on your political perspective, congresspersons in the United States right now. So on that front, I think those people are wrong, but it doesn't really matter. I don't really pay close attention to that stuff. Having said that, in the interest of being as charitable as possible, I think this is the last lifeline for the Democrats. Under our current existing duopoly, this is the last exit ramp for the Democratic Party to dramatically restructure its attitude, to dramatically restructure its policies, to actually build a strong base of support against the Republican administration's policy agenda as they actively dismantle the administrative state. And I think the reason why they're doing this is to show both the media, mainstream media, and also show the Democratic Party that there is a different way out of this. That if they continue with their third way neoliberalism, that they will not be able to ever defend the future of this country, and they will not be able to ever win ever again. And I think I don't think it'll be successful, but I do think that is what they're trying to do. And as I've said, one thing that they should be doing, in my opinion, if I had a magic wand, or if I could get in Bernie's ear, and I guess add some notes, even though who the fuck am I, right? He's been doing this for a lot longer than I have. My note on this would be to try to mobilize around individual issues that you care about. Mobilize around, not just organize and not just do an awareness campaign, but instead mobilize around specific issues and get all of these people to show up for specific issues. It's fine to do these kinds of massive rallies as well, but I think it's important to also, do one of these sorts of rallies outside of the detention center where Mahmoud Khalil is being held, right? To talk about how damaging it is that the Trump administration is revoking the legal permanent residency of someone over free speech grounds. And how terrifying that is for the future of this country, how fascist it is. I think that is a show of force that goes along with your agenda, that goes along with your message, that also has a little bit of momentum behind it, that could potentially strike fear in the heart of this administration. And that's my attitude on this. I think you could do a two-parter. Yeah, Daniel Denver also is of the same mind here. Bernie and AOC should rally at Columbia against the repression. I think that's a fantastic opportunity. And I think that's what they should be doing. And by the way, what they're doing right now, to give credit to a horrible monster, what they're doing right now is what the right has been doing with a lot of AstroTurf movements specifically. It's like what Marjorie Taylor Greene does. It's what Trump has been doing. So do more of it, but for good things, right? That's my attitude. I think it would be very smart to take all of this momentum and then try to use that discontent to make real, tangible changes. I think he's sticking to economic policies, hence the focus on oligarchy and workers. They're not going to rally around Palestine or Khalil. Yeah, except there is also a workers' rights issue there as well. Also, free speech is a fundamental value that protects workers anyway, or is supposed to protect workers in theory. What do you mean? In terms of Colombia, there is a really fantastic opportunity to drive home that message that Grant Minor, who was the leader of the Student Workers Union in Columbia University, who is Jewish himself, and also was studying, I think it was Jewish classics, like medieval literature, specifically focusing on Jewish literature. That person was fired by Columbia for negotiating with Columbia a union contract, and also simultaneously unenrolled from Columbia in the process. It's completely ridiculous if you think that there's no workers' rights in this conversation. There's no economic focus on this conversation. Yeah, Iberian focus, Muslim, Christian, Jewish. Thank you. Yeah, Grant Minor got expelled as the head of the Columbia Student Union. He's Jewish. He was one of the student activists on campus as well. And that's part of what they used to dislodge him from this position, to undermine the potential bargaining power that the Columbia Student Labor Union has. It is completely unacceptable. So it's a lot of this noise is only as important as you make it. And in terms of like what people are saying online, right? It's only as important as you think it is. So there's no reason for you at any point to give it any additional power. Just remember, it's just noise. Okay? So when you see people that are, you don't have to be charitable to Bernie, you could be ruthlessly critical and still not be disrespectful. Wait, what? Ruthlessly critical? I think I am fairly critical of Bernie Sanders. Maybe it's just not up to your standard. I think Bernie Sanders' opinion on specifically Gaza post-October 7 is something that I have regularly criticized Bernie on, especially considering that he was leading the charge and moving the needle in the direction of anti-Zionist thought as a formative and very popular political figure in the United States of America. He was usually at the cutting edge, talking about cutting funding to Israel before many other congresspersons ever even entertained the thought. He ran on it in 2016, and now he's completely outflanked by other congresspersons. It's unacceptable. But I think constantly having a back and forth over that is utterly unproductive. The reason why it is utterly unproductive is because I understand why you would want to. Push Bernie into a more firmly established anti-Zionist position, but he's 800 years old. There's a likelihood that he's never going to get there. Okay, the way I talk about this is always the same. It's like you got Chuck Schumer on the one hand, so my battle is with him. My battle is not with someone who I agree with on virtually everything, and have a significant disagreement on because they're not sufficiently anti-Israel. My battle is with the likes of Chuck Schumer and the Republican Party, right? It's with Elisa Slotkin. It's not with like the few people that actually do try to criticize Israel to the best of their ability, but while still being severely limited in their criticisms, and leave much more room for offering charity to this apartheid state that is doing a genocide. Chuck Schumer and Bernie have zero daylight between them, regardless of Israel and Gaza. Yeah, I mean, you're wrong. That's just, sorry, you're just insanely wrong. That is psychotic. This is Twitter brain rot. But the distinction on this doesn't even matter at the end of the day. Like, I'm doing the thing again where I'm like seemingly defending Bernie Sanders or anything like that, where it's like, I'm not on this issue. There's no defense of Bernie Sanders, but you're wrong. And now my neurodivergence is causing me to course correct because you're just fundamentally wrong. And it's most likely a foolhardy endeavor because you've made up your mind on a delusional statement already. I used to say this about AOC as well. AOC, especially in terms of foreign policy, makes a lot of genuine mistakes, like fairly significant ones, or associating themselves with a dying movement within the party, right? We forget weirdly enough, that we must, one, be ruthless to systems, but be kind to people, as Michael Jamal Brooks, rest in power, used to say. Okay? But we are also endlessly more cynical about people that are closest to us in ideological positioning. It's very strange. We do it all the time. I try not to do it to the best of my ability. I'm I fall into that trap too. It feels more, I mean, it has more impact when someone you expect to know better, like Bernie Sanders, doesn't do the right thing in times where doing the right thing is absolutely necessary. Like demonstrating moral courage is absolutely a necessity. I get it. I understand why it feels different when you hear from someone that you admire, right? But if you make a statement like, you know, there's no daylight between Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer, I mean, here's Chuck Schumer.
The view of Palestinians is simple. Well, the Europeans treated the Jews badly, culminating in the Holocaust, and they gave them our land as compensation. Of course, we say it's our land. The Torah says it, but they don't believe in the Torah. So that's the reason there is not peace. They invent other reasons, but they do not believe in a Jewish state. And that is why we in America must stand strong with Israel through thick and thin. We must, because that is the...
Like, this is the minority leader in the Senate for the Democratic Party. What a psychopathic thing to say. It's just utterly unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. What the do you mean? Oh, the Torah. Get the out of here. What are you talking about? Oh, the Quran told me that we need to re-implement a caliphate, and the Jews don't want that. So I say, you know, we have to support any kind of implementation of the caliphate. Like, if I were to run around saying stuff like that, you'd be like, what do you mean? What you want to do ISIS? Like, I don't understand. This is why I always say people who love Israel literally behave as though they are ISIS supporters. And because there's a lot of institutional backing for that kind of sentiment, like, it's as though so many people, especially like, this is a Jewish American who has retained the highest office that any Jewish American has ever had. Think about that. Think about what that means, right? As a Jewish American in the highest office that any American Jew has ever had in the United States of America, you stand on the stage at AIPAC and you basically present the Jewish version of ISIS and you associate it with Judaism. And you think that this is like a positive association. It's so psychotic. I'm sure it's positive in that crowd, but that is a psychotic thing to say out loud. Maybe it's because as a dude whose name is Hassan, living in post 9/11 America, I just cannot ever wrap my head around how people would offensively use this kind of association as a positive in broad daylight, educating Americans on this false conflation that Israel is Judaism and Judaism is Israel over and over again at a time when many Americans are waking up to the reality that maybe Israel is not great. It's so short-sighted. Even if you don't care about like the genocide, it's so short-sighted in terms of self-preservation. You are so dumb for doing a dual loyalty trope, but wokely, thinking that like Americans are not going to respond to that, thinking that Americans are not going to respond to that negatively and be like, okay, well, you taught me that this is for the Jews and it's because of the Torah. Now I'm believing a whole bunch of Nazi shit. Yes, I know this was in 2018, chatters. I know this is an old clip. It doesn't change the dynamic at all, and it doesn't change the reality of it. He still has these opinions. What are you talking about?
Reason, not any of these other false shibboleths, why there is not peace in the Middle East. Too many people don't understand that here in America.
Do you get it? Do you understand? Schumer was already getting his wish a decade before even a single rocket was fired. To this day, Israel justifies carrying out preemptive strike and starting the 1967 war based on a partial blockade from Egypt, but Palestinians is apparently just necessary medicine. Yeah. So for people like myself, when I heard this, I was like, that's why I always try to tell people to, like, I guess, be a little bit more charitable, because I know the societal attitude towards Israel until recently. Like, a lot of you guys are very passionate. Many of you just found out about it. And I'm not talking about Palestinians, okay? They obviously were very aware of the situation for their whole lives. But, like, there are many people in the West who are just, like, very, very understandably passionate about the situation because it's a genocide. It's, like, the worst thing you can do. It's the worst crime that you can commit against anyone. And so in that passion, you find yourself taking hardline stances and not understanding the position that certain people have, not giving people grace, and maybe even removing the nuance from the equation. And that's where that conversation takes place, where you're like, Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders, has no daylight between them. No, that's not true. It's just simply not true. Is Bernie Sanders' statement, are Bernie Sanders' statements on Palestine appropriate? No, of course not. Having said that, the position still, my position on this still holds. If every single congressperson had Bernie's attitude, Israel would not be able to do a genocide. Do you see what I mean? Like, imagine a world where every single congressperson was had arrived at Bernie Sanders' position on Israel, even if they were like liberal Zionists, which I think Bernie is. He's not an anti-Zionist, right? Like, there's no world in which, like, you imagine like when Bernie pushed for a ceasefire proposal and a bill to stop giving weapons to Israel, because he did that. Instead of having like 17 signatories, imagine if he had 100. Like, that's unimaginable. That's a world that doesn't exist right now. I wish for a future where we look to the likes of Bernie Sanders and we look to the likes of AOC as like moderates. I wish for that future, but that is not where we're at right now. So especially when you're doing politics, especially when you're mobilizing, especially when you're advocating for certain things, you have to remember what the broader audience and their attitudes look like. Having said that, I think Bernie Sanders could be saying a lot more about Israel. I think he does the classic thing where he just like hyper focuses on Benjamin Netanyahu, even though he will at times say that there is like Israel is engaging in morally repugnant behavior. Like, he will openly say that Israel is doing this, not just Benjamin Netanyahu. So he gets it to a certain degree, but I think that there is too much social conditioning, lived experience, and too much, I guess, hope in his mind as a guy who went and saw the kibbutzim, the kibbutz, to fully subscribe to the notion that is the truth, by the way. It's not even a notion. The truth that Israel is a fascist apartheid state that is currently doing a genocide. You have to recognize that. That is not, I understand why, and that's precisely why I understand why people think this is not like simply a difference that is reconcilable. This is an irreconcilable wrong that must be corrected. Okay?
In front of this crowd, these two didn't need any introduction.
In the hundreds of rallies that I have done, we have never, ever had a rally as large as this.
Thousands of people flooded the Civic Center to see Independent Senator Bernie Sanders and Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, drawn by a sense of urgency, fear, and frustration.
Well, the reason I'm here is I don't like the way this country is going right now.
Even before they spoke, the crowd knew what they were hoping to hear: accountability for the issues they care about.
I'm actually a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I have so many patients who have Medicaid or Medicare. I'm afraid for the country.
On stage, AOC wasted no time challenging not only Republicans, but her own party.
And this isn't just about Republicans. We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us, too.
Neither Sanders nor AOC spoke directly to Denver-specific issues like immigration enforcement in the city or the rising cost of living, instead focusing on national themes like raising the minimum wage.
You're a loser and a racist, and all your UR viewers are brain dead. Okay. Yeah. Don't ban this guy. I want to know what they mean when they say I'm a racist. I really want to know.
And taking on billionaires.
Is we will not allow America to become an oligarchy. This nation was built by working people, and we're not going to let a handful of billionaires run the government.
Both leaders finishing off with a reminder to the people: the power is with them.
No, it's not Bernie. Not Bernie. I got bad news for you. It's you.
I want you to look at every level of office around you and support Democrats who actually fight, because those are the ones that can win against Republicans. We are going to get through this.
It was one of many stops across the West this week, and tomorrow they will be in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, right now they're in Tucson today.
We're joined by someone who knows all about these issues and has warned about them in film and in politics. Michael Moore, the Oscar-winning filmmaker, has campaigned in previous cycles with Bernie Sanders. He's, of course, an author and a popular Substack columnist. Welcome back.
Did the guy respond about what I'm racist about, or did they just like move on? Did they say anything? No, that's it. Just that I'm a loser and a racist, and my viewers are brain dead. Interesting.
Thank you, Ari.
Where do you want to begin, Michael? Go ahead.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, it's great seeing Bernie and AOC out there across the country. And it's starting to feel, I don't know if I should say this, it's way too early to talk about 2028 yet. Everybody's thinking about what we're going to do next year. I believe that Alexandria will be 35 by Inauguration Day in January of 2029. And perhaps historians will see this tour where Bernie and AOC barnstormed the country. Oligarchy versus democracy. And that introduced the idea of we need a whole new person, a kind of person in the White House that is going to fight for the people. And while Bernie may think, well, you know, maybe by 2028 he's going to be too old, you can see just how not old he is. It's just been amazing to watch the tour this week, and to think about.
God, I mean, it's interesting to see. This is a moment of vindication for someone like Michael Moore. It's a moment of vindication for someone like myself as well. But like, I can't help but see the danger ahead, and so close that I can't think about like who's gonna run and what their chances are in 2028. You know what I mean? I'm sure he can't either. He basically said that. Anyway, let's continue.
That we have somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to be the voice of. We have two full generations now of millennials and Gen Zers that are mad as hell at the world that they're being handed by the generations before them. And I can't live through another election where people stay home like they stayed home this time. I'm talking about liberal, lefty, Democrats, independents, people that by the millions stayed home on November 5th. And that cost us the election. There's more of us than there are of them. You look at every poll on the issues, the majority of Americans agree with Bernie and me and AOC. And yet millions stayed home. That's on the Democrats. And that has to change. And I'll just say one more thing. What I love about the tour is that Bernie is putting forth the idea that the Democrats have let us down on.
Some people are misunderstanding when I said 2028 is too far away. I heard some chatters going, oh, there's the midterms to worry about, right? And no, that's not what I meant either. Like we're only 3 months, not even 3 months in. I guess technically 3 months in. We're about to be in our third month of this administration, and look at the situation. Like we're not making it out. We're not making it out to the midterms, even if things go the way that they're going. And I'm being very serious about this. I'm being very sincere about this. I'm not fear mongering at all. The Trump administration is causing irreparable harm at an alarming speed. This is why, regardless of your opinions of the Democratic Party, and I certainly am not the biggest fan, like, I don't care who does this right now, but you have to use every tool at your disposal, whether it be direct action, whether it be organizing, or whether it be hosting rallies, or whether it be even sometimes, getting the Democrats, expecting the Democrats to do something. That's why I don't shy away from urging you to call your persons, your congressional representatives, regardless of the fact that they rarely ever do your bidding. Because the moment that you just completely check out of that part of the process is a moment where it's over. What are we going to do? Direct action in terms of like arming ourselves? Is that what your advocacy is? My goal is to avoid that reality. 800,000 Germans were arrested in the buildup to the Nazi regime and during the Nazi regime before World War II. 800,000. Many of them were killed in these camps. I don't want America to get to that point. So I'll use every tool in my disposal, which even includes trying to get Democratic congresspersons to still do the right thing, bring them there by force if necessary, in order to avoid that outcome, including Uber Eats. What? What are you talking about, dude? Some of you literally have lobotomies, I think. One of the many tools at your disposal. God, shut the up. God, it's just like, I know you're joking. Here, I'm going to unban you so you can be like, I was just joking, actually. And then I'm going to ban you. Dude, I swear to God, it's over. It's done. When I see stuff like this from, like-minded leftists who are just like, yeah, dude, keep eating that Uber Eats. Like, okay, dude. Yeah, you're right. I'm phony. I'm a capitalist. I don't give a shit about anything. I'm just going to be right-wing then. You know what I mean? Like, there's no locking in involved here, okay? It's all locking out. Is it everybody's BDS or something? No, it's not. It's just people doing, like, fake, phony, I'm leftier than down nonsense. Yeah, I'm apolitical, dude. I'm apolitical. Yeah, I'm right-wing. I'm a grifter. I'm a right-wing grifter. Oh, I'm so tired.
In such a profound way. We need people running for office as independents like Bernie does. He does just fine. Now, maybe in your state or your city, that's not the best thing to do. But less, Bernie is not a member of the Democratic Party. Neither am I. And there's a reason for that. It should be evident by now. And we're not going to survive. If we think the Democrats are the cavalry and the cavalry is going to ride in and save us, that's not going to happen. Not with these Democrats. I'm sorry. I hate to say that, but we need more independent people. There are people watching me and you right now that need to think about running for office next year, local office, state office, Congress. We need to primary these Democrats that don't have the guts and the courage. Our country is being dismantled right now, and we are watching it. And for us to do nothing, for some of us who should be thinking about what we're going to do next year, that it's almost criminal that we are even just sitting here talking about this when we need to be out there. We should be in the streets. We should be running for office, and we should quit thinking the Democrats are going to save us. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. You're going to get a lot of emails and calls from people. Why are you having Michael Moore on? But I'm sorry. I can't go through another November 5th like we just went through. And in these 3-4 months since then, what we're watching happen every day, every hour, you turn on MSNBC and it's something else. What was it 2 hours ago? Oh, they're dismantling the civil rights office of the Department of Homeland Security. And if anything has proven that we need a civil rights office in Homeland Security, it's what has happened to Mahmoud Khalil in the last couple of weeks. This is the Columbia University graduate student who was arrested and disappeared to Louisiana, not committed a single crime, not accused of a single crime. All he has done is to try and stand up for his people, the Palestinian people, with his freedom of speech rights that he has as a legal permanent resident of the United States of America. And the fact that we have
I'll jump in, although I let you run it for a while, Michael.
No, thank you.
But you made a lot of good points. That issue you raise, along with the deportation clash across this whole week, is about whether we will have the liberty that the founding fathers set as a baseline and had to be expanded over time as we expanded who really was a human being. It's a longer history. But the core idea was you can't have a king snatch people up, accuse them of things, and disappear them, as you said. Now, if through a process you satisfy the requirements and the person has due process and rights in counsel, there are reasons why people, of course, can be removed, but you have to prove that. If you can't prove that, which they haven't had to because they deported these folks on the planes and the example you give, then anybody can be snatched up. I mean, that's the whole reason why these are question is king-like powers. Your first point is really profound. You say people might not like it, but the Republican Party was fraying, and it got a boost of MAGA which went against a lot of its core values, but became this cult of Trump. But it papered over that sclerotic party. And then people say he took over. And the Democrats, from what happened to Bernie, which we've covered in the initial time he ran against Clinton, to a lot of the other problems the party's had, also have these complete credibility issues with the public. So we're watching a public that doesn't think either party's that great. I could show you the numbers today, and I could show you the numbers a couple of years back. It's what you said. And so the larger grassroots question is who's going to step up and meet that. So I appreciate what you said there. I want to give you more time, and I want to show you something on prices because all the way back to Flint, Michigan, we ignore the working people at our peril in a country like this, as you've documented. And so here's the double talk from MAGA on what people do care about, which is jobs and prices.
Are you expecting agricultural products to be more expensive as a result of tariffs, Secretary?
When they voted in November of 2024, they knew that's what they were voting for. There may be an interim period as we're readjusting the entire economy. But listen, real change takes disruption.
I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one. One on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word. The groceries. Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down.
Prices aren't down. Markets are down, and tariffs are up. Is this a bait and switch? Go ahead.
That was the word, groceries. Okay. Listen. This is the gift of Trump, if I could put it that way, that he has already started to turn his own people against him. They're not quite there yet, but when they start going to the doctor and there's no Medicaid payment, and they're going to have to pay that doctor for their children and all of that, just go down the whole list of things that is going to cost them more and more money. It's going to be harder and harder to live. And they're going to understand that he's the one that made this happen. And maybe he's thinking, well, I'm really good at lying. And if you just say it long enough.
My fear is they won't. And the reason why I think that is not because of the cultish mentality, because some are in the cult and they'll never see it. But the real reason why people won't see it is because there's no active, deliberate attempt to make people understand that he's doing it. And without that, absent of that, he could just keep lying about everything. They'll just say, we haven't punished trans people hard enough. We haven't punished Mexicans hard enough. We haven't punished the Democrats hard enough. This is why I say I don't have to be a supporter of the Democratic Party or a card-carrying Democrat to know that they have to do this messaging. Because as long as the duopoly still exists, I don't care about strengthening the Democrats. I care about making sure that we use them as a weapon to wield against the Trump administration. This doesn't mean that I'm a Democrat. This doesn't mean that I'm a liberal. This doesn't mean that I'm on board with the Democratic Party's agenda. I want them to fight. The Democrats are a tool to fight against fascism. As long as they exist, that is the unfortunate reality. Do you understand? Just like Bernie Sanders' impact wasn't simply, Bernie Sanders' impact was not simply about running and almost winning in the primaries. His impact, I think, most significantly was bringing these ideas to the main stage and showing Americans that these otherwise radical positions are not so radical. There is a politician out there that is advocating for the American working class's best interests. Using the existing avenues to garner support like this is phenomenally important. And I think a lot of people that want to maintain ideological purity don't recognize that. People that want to maintain ideological purity don't understand how important it is to present yourself in ways that is palatable to as broad an audience as possible. Never compromise on your values. But when you talk about issues, understand who you're talking to. That's why when I go on Theo Vaughn's podcast, I'm not compromising on my values, but my messaging is different than when I go on, the Deprogram podcast. right? This is just the way you communicate in a normal way. If you want your otherwise unpopular or not well-known worldview and perspective that most people inherently despise due to a century of Red Scare propaganda, if you want those positions to come across as palatable, you have to be normal, and you have to use every outlet you can to keep moving the needle in that direction, to bring more people on board. That is my primary focus right now, because looking at the material conditions in the United States of America, analyzing the lack of class consciousness that the working class has here, I think there is still so much need for agitative propaganda to get people to understand that they're being fucked over by this system. A lot of you fantasize about a post-communist utopia when you live in one of the most reactionary countries, reactionary anti-communist countries on the planet. This is not about propping up the Democrats, but instead using their platform and trying to get them to understand, perhaps it's a foolhardy endeavor, and I certainly think so, by the way, but to get them to understand that you have to change trajectory and you have to focus on the material. You have to focus on policies. You have to talk about how Trump is harming American lives directly, and drive a wedge between Trump and his base of support to the best of your ability, and try to undermine the Trump agenda every step of the way. If you don't do that, you're done. That's it. And you might disagree with my methods, and that's certainly fine too. That's fine. Go ahead. You can disagree with me all day. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. You do you, I'll do me. All right?
Price of eggs, price of eggs, price of eggs, price of eggs. They'll go with that. I don't think so. I think the American people are smarter than that. And I know fellow liberals are watching this and going, Mike, no. But yes. And from, as you mentioned, Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan is the birthplace of the 8-month pregnant wife of Mahmoud Khalil. She was born and raised in Flint, Ari. She was a top student at Flint University of Michigan, Flint branch. Gave the graduation speech there about 8 years ago. She's now a dentist. She's Dr. Noor Abdallah from Flint, Michigan, American citizen. He's a permanent legal resident with a green card. And I'm sorry to go back to that, but I'm just saying that the people in the state of Michigan, which Trump won, in the Flint, Michigans, in the Grand Rapids, in the Pontiacs, all those places, he's not going to keep this up. They're already on to him. They're already on to Chainsaw Man. And I read this thing the other day, the Michigan Chainsaw Massacre, of how Michigan is already hurting by the things that he's done. People are wise. They will come along to this. They will realize this. The Republicans, there's this, what's his name? Andy Biggs. They're all getting just slammed at their town halls. He's doing a town hall. He said now that only Republicans can come to it. They're going to vet you and make sure only Republicans can get in the room. Andy Biggs, if you don't know, if you're watching this, is one of the 147 Republicans who, after a violent mob took over the United States Capitol on January 6th, and it took almost till late in the evening, near midnight, for the police and the National Guard to remove them from our Capitol. And then all the members of Congress and the senators came back in. And at 2 or so in the morning, now January 7th, 147 Republicans voted to overturn the 2020 election. They voted to overthrow the vote of the people. I'll exactly quote the New York Times. 147 Republicans who voted to, quote, overturn election results. And Reuters, Republicans, 147 of them voted to overturn the election. To me, I'm sorry.
Michael Moore does lib out a little bit too much for my taste.
Raised differently. That's the work of traitors. if you are voting, and you're voting just hours after an attempted overthrow of the United States Capitol, and then you show up and then you vote to say, no, we reject what the American people have said and how they voted. That's a treasonous act. And there were 147 Republicans who did this, including Andy Biggs, who only wants Republicans at his town hall. The American people
occupying this much space with January 6th related criticisms is wild. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I've taken a lot of shit for not wanting to throw AOC and Bernie out and giving them grace. I know where regular people are, and there are the people that represent us in the minds of normies, reachable libs, etc. Yeah. I'm not saying that like AOC and Bernie Sanders are going to save us. I'm just saying that they are, as elected representatives with a lot of motion, with a lot of popularity, they are incredibly valuable tools at your disposal. Spending every waking moment yelling at them, I think this isn't to say you shouldn't criticize them, by the way, but like the level of criticism I think that they receive from people that they're closest to ideologically is always funny to me, because it's like there are so many more infinitely worse people out there in Congress. I understand why you'd be more upset at them, because it's like disappointing to see someone that you trust, right? That's not for you to police. It's not. But you know what my job is? My job is to try to find the most effective means of communicating certain desires that we all share. That's it. I'm not policing it. I'm just simply saying that while there is plenty of places to criticize these people on, you have to expand on your perspective and not have incredibly narrow horse blinders when analyzing the situation and then thinking that they are the worst people in Congress. Because many people do have that attitude. It's a strange way to appropriate, you know? You got Richie Torres and Chuck Schumer and many other people like that in the Democratic Party. Then you have the entirety of the Republican Party as well. You know, if you think that like the absolute worst people to constantly yell at is the likes of, AOC and whatnot, then you're just not, you're missing the forest for the trees. Ironically enough, until Ethan Klein quite literally changed his entire content to psychopathically pursue every little thing I do and like lie about it and actively try to deplatform me and successfully deplatform others. The reason why I was always like, I don't give a fuck about what Ethan is saying about Israel, shut up, he's not your enemy, was for this reason. It was for this reason, because I was like, initially he had said a bunch of pro-Palestinian things, and I was like, yeah, there's no reason to constantly hyper-focus on what he's doing. And over the course of the past year, obviously his attitude changed dramatically, and he became like an insane Hosberist, an insane propagandist for Israel in that time frame. So that's the reason why I think it's there's a point that where it's understandable when you start criticizing people.